Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to talk about how to prepare for CAIE Computer Science, and the code is 0478. Today I'm going to give you a few tips about the May-June 2026 session, which is coming after a few months. This is me, Shehlla Naeem, your computer science instructor. Now when we move to second slide, we'll see that this slide covers how to understand the exam structure. So basically this is one of the most important thing when it comes to the preparation of your computer science CIE examination. Now this is paper 1 where there is a theory which contains of problem solving and concepts. This includes multiple topics. So you all need to understand those concepts really thoroughly so that if you get something which is conceptual, you don't get confused. Then the second part is paper 2, which is purely about pseudocode and programming. Yes, there is another topic which is database, which is logic gates. Again, that is all about understanding. Both require practice, and you cannot memorize the definitions even or something like that, because again the understanding matters a lot. What you need to do is you need to focus on logic, you need to focus on tracing, and you need to focus on accuracy, because your answers need to be accurate. Now, the next thing is you need to revise the full syllabus. You cannot simply reduce the syllabus on your own, because the entire book is a part of CAIE syllabus. Now here you have the data representation where binaries there, hexadecimal are there, images are there, sounds are there, calculations are there, wavelengths, and all these things are there. So you need to revise them completely. Then you have the hardware and the software. Yes, now hardware, the working of the hardware is not a part of the syllabus, but you need to have the understanding of how the hardware works. Because when you get the questions based on hardware and software, then you have to have a complete understanding, and based on the understanding, you can answer the questions really well. Also, there's a topic which is networks and internet, and in the networks and internet, when you get the questions that is about the MAC addresses and all these things, so you need to know that as well. Cybersecurity, where there are the types of cybersecurity threats and all these things are there. So spyware, adware, malware, Trojan horse, and all these things, just like phishing, farming, and all these things. So you need to know them all in detail, and you should know the difference between them. There are ethics. Computer ethics are no more the part of the syllabus, but yes, you need to know the environmental impact of all these things. Then we have, you need to master the problem solving skills when it comes to P2, where the pseudocodes are there, algorithms are there. So you need to practice the algorithms on a daily basis. You cannot simply allocate the days or the hours to do so. You need to practice them daily so that you can be proactive in doing so. You need to understand the flowcharts, how to make them, how the flowcharts work, the purpose, and the pseudocode. You need to understand the logic building, the trace tables. You need to understand again the trace program step by step, which is the trace table, because every step counts. You get the marks for every column, for each column, and if you miss anything in any particular column, you lose marks. Then paper 2, again paper 2 is very scoring. You can get full marks in that, but again you need to practice them daily. Otherwise you won't be able to understand, because if you practice something, for example, on first day of the week, and then you plan to do this on the third day of the week, and then the sixth day on the week, so ideally it should be practiced on a daily basis. You need to learn the CI pseudocode syntax properly, because that's a proper typical syntax that you need to understand, which is not difficult, but yes, you need to clear your understanding. You need to practice the loops, you need to practice the if statements, you need to practice the arrays, because आपका 15 marker question is also based on these arrays, one dimensional, two dimensional. Then you need to dry run the program, which is simple, called the trace tables, how the trace tables work and all. You need to understand the common exam patterns, okay, how the exams are coming, which type of questions come, what are their methodologies and all. Then You need to use the past papers effectively. You just don't have to open the book, open the past paper, and open the marking scheme and just read them. You solve the past paper and then go and refer to the marking scheme. To solve at least 5 years of past papers, which is previous 5 years, so you understand the pattern of which type of exam, which type of questions come in. Then you need to practice the under timed conditions. By this, it means that if you have been given certain time, which is 1 hour 45 minutes, so you need to time your questions accordingly, so you can answer them um, according to the mark allocation, according to the time division that is required. You need to check the marking schemes carefully, because agar marking scheme mein there's certain question that is asked and maybe you are not answering that properly, so you need to understand what they do, what is the impact of the answer. Then you need to learn how marks are awarded when it comes to detailed questions. Single liner is usually of 1 mark. Two liners are of 2 marks, fill in the blanks or MCQs sort of things, or matchings maybe. But when it comes to the detailed questions, then you need to be clear about the marks. Then it comes to the important topics. So you need to prioritize the important topics. Yes, you need to cover the entire syllabus, but ideally the important topics should be covered first, just like the logic gates and Boolean logic, where it comes to the circuits, where it comes to the expressions, where it comes to the truth tables, the AND gate, OR gate, NOR gate, NAND, XOR, all these things. Now you should practice the trace tables, because simply the practice, you cannot learn anything. You should know how to design the algorithm based on the given scenario or based on the situation. So data representation questions need to be prioritized, where the data is represented and how it works. You need to understand the network security questions. Then there are certain common mistakes that all the students do, and you need to avoid them. Writing code instead of pseudocode style. So basically, you need to write it in a pseudocode form, and do not write the code. These are the mistakes that mostly students do, because they think they know the code well. Yes, CAIE is allowed you, but ideally the pseudocode. Okay, skipping the trace tables is not an ideal situation, because trace table is really a scoring thing. Not showing working steps, most students do mental math की तरह वो कर देते हैं, working steps नहीं दिखाते, and then they end up on losing the marks for the working. Ignoring keywords like define, output, if you ignore them, your question doesn't get the weightage properly. Now, 1 month before exam doesn't mean you start preparing. That is the time when you need to use the alternate paper 1 and paper 2 practice. You need to start doing that. You need to focus on your weak topics, which you think are difficult, or maybe you need more practice in that. You need to memorize the key definitions. Yes, beginning May, I told you that you do not have to, you need to clear the concept. But yes, there are certain things, just the key definitions, that you need to memorize them. You need to improve your speed and accuracy of giving the answers. Now, what you should do 1 week before the exams, you should revise the formats of the answers, okay, how the answer has to be written or given, what thing to be mentioned first, and so on. You need to practice one paper daily, no matter what. And if it's P1 one paper and P2 one paper, that's the ideal thing. You need to go through the common errors notebook, where you make a log of the common errors that you make, and you need to avoid those, and that you will do by just doing the practice. You stay calm and confident. If you think you don't understand anything, try to solve that. Maybe by your try, you are able to get 1 or 2 marks. Now, the final tip for the A star, and we all are working for this A star. Computer science is about the practice and the logic, so you need to carry on practicing it on a daily basis, and you need to clear the logic behind whatever is happening. Do not cram. If you cram and you miss something, you miss everything. So you need to understand what is happening. Think like a problem solver when it comes to P2 in particular, but yes, when it comes to P1, where the calculations are there or the conversions are there, just think like you are here to solve this problem and you have to solve it. There's no other solution. Consistency. So you need to carry on doing this work. You need to carry on answering the questions